Let us continue to read from verse 17 to verse 20. And we read, And Jesse said unto David his son, Take now for thy brethren an ephah of this parched corn, and these 10 loaves, and run to the camp to thy brethren, and carry these 10 cheese unto the captains of their thousands, and look how thy brethren fare, and take their pledge. Now Saul and they and all the men of Israel were in the valley of Elah fighting with the Philistines. So we see that in the midst of all the battle that was going on in Israel, between the Israelites and the Philistines, there was a young man from the house of Jesse who was taking care of his father's sheep. And his father Jesse sent him to go and bring food for his brothers. And we see in the scriptures that he went to the battleground and he found the Israelites were put in array against the army of the Philistines. Let's continue reading from verse 22 to 23. And David left his carriage in the hand of the keeper of the carriage, and ran into the army, and came and saluted his brethren. And as he talked with them, behold, there came up the champion, the Philistine of Gath, Goliath by name, out of the armies of the Philistines, and spake according to the same ways, and David heard him. So we see that as David was entering the army of the Israelites, as he was about to bring the food to his brethren, the champion from the Philistine, Goliath of Gath, came again and shouted, and he belittled and he defied the armies of God. So David heard the voice of Goliath. He heard what Goliath was doing into the armies of Israel. Let's continue. Read from verse 26 to 30. And David spake to the men that stood by him, saying, What shall be done to the man that killeth this Philistine, and take away the reproach from Israel? For who is this uncircumcised Philistine, that he should defy the armies of the living God? So when David heard the Philistine defying the armies of God, he began to ask questions. He began to inquire from the soldiers that what can be done to the man, or what should be the reward of a man who will take away the reproach of Israel by killing this uncircumcised Philistine. So here we see a very significant and important word spoken by David. The word covenant. David was a man of covenant. When he spoke, he said, Who is this uncircumcised Philistine? He was speaking out of covenant, because for the Israelites to be in covenant, they had to be circumcised. So this is David speaking out of covenant. He understands that Israel was in covenant with the living God. And covenant is a marriage. A covenant is agreement. A covenant is a stakeholder. So when you are in covenant, what belongs to you, when I'm in covenant with you, what belongs to you also belongs to me. And what belongs to me also belongs to you. So it's like a man and his wife, a husband and his wife. If the two are in covenant and you hear people saying bad things about your wife in the streets, are you gonna keep quiet? Or if you hear people saying bad things about your husband, are you just gonna keep quiet, or you are going to defend? So David was speaking out of the jealousy that he had with his God, as a man of covenant, as a man who is intimate with God. So he could not let a Philistine to speak bad about the God who is in covenant with him. So that's why David was so enraged. David got angry and he called him the uncircumcised Philistine, which means he was saying this man is not in the covenant, and yet he speaks against the people of the covenant. Let's read from verse 28. And Eliab, his eldest brother, heard when he spake unto the men. And Eliab Eliab's anger was kindled against David, and he said, Why cometh you down here? And with whom have you left those few sheep in the wilderness? I know their pride and the naughtiness of your heart, for you have come down that you might see the battle. So, as David was inquiring, as David was busy asking about the reward and about what can happen to the man who will take away the reproach of Israel, his elder brother Eliab heard his inquiry, and he came to him and said, David, what are you doing here? And with whom have you left those few sheep? Why did he mention few sheep? Even if the sheep were few, but why did he just have to mention few sheep? Because he was trying to belittle him. When people want to belittle you, they will belittle you by your possessions, or they will belittle you by the things that you have been given to manage. So that's why Eliab here, he comes to David and says, David, why have you come here? Have you come here just to watch the battle? And with whom have you left those little sheep? So that phrase there was a form of mocking and a form of belittling. So in life, there will be naysayers in your life who will come to you and discourage you about that business that you want to start. They will belittle you about that family that you want to begin, about that ministry that you want to start, and they will call it little. They will belittle you, because in trying to belittle what you do, they are actually belittling you. They are belittling your effort. They are belittling your calling. They are belittling your gifts and your talent. So here is a naysayer who grew up with David. They shared the same roof. They shared the same food. But here he comes and belittle his own brother. In life, ladies and gentlemen, you'll find people who will belittle you. These are people you worked with. These are people you grew up with. These are people you even shared a meal with. But now, when you want to advance and transcend into new heights and new levels, they will come and belittle you and try to pull you down. And they will say, no, you cannot do this. Go back to where you come from. Go back. Because they have written a story about your life. And when you are doing something different, they want to keep you in the pages of their chapter. Well, while you need to transcend and go further in life and progress in life. So there are naysayers in life who will belittle you, who will belittle your efforts, who will stop you from progressing, and they will want you to go back to taking care of the little sheep, so to speak. So here is a naysayer that you are so acquainted with. Instead of them encouraging you because they are family, instead of them encouraging you because they are friends and then they've known you for a long time, they discourage you. They want you to go back to where you come from. They want you to go back to do things that they are comfortable with you doing. They don't want you to fight the giant. Let's continue to verse 29. And David said, What have I now done? Is there not a cause? And he turned from him towards another, and spake after the same manner. And the people answered him again after the former manner. So as Eliab, his brother, was trying to discourage him, was trying to stop him from progressing, was trying to stop him from embarking into a new journey of establishing new things, trying new things out, as Eliab was trying to stop him. So David answered him, I'm just asking a question. Is there a cause? Is there not a cause? And the Bible says David turned against his brother, or he turned his back against his brother. So there are people in life that you need to turn your back against. You don't need to listen to them anymore, because instead of encouraging you, they are pulling you back. So you need to turn your back against them and look for other decisions. Build new friendships, so to speak. Surround yourself with people who will encourage you. Surround yourself with people who will celebrate you. Surround yourself with people who will always remind you that it can be done. Surround yourself with people that even in your weaknesses, they will uphold you. Even in your weaknesses, they will encourage you, and they will not pull you back and put you down. Surround yourself with people who will listen to you. And as we see, when David began to ask other people, they answered him. They did not have a problem with him. They answered him according to the former manner. Let's continue and read verse 31. And when the words were heard, which David spake, they rehearsed them before Saul, and said for him. And David said to Saul, let no man's heart fail because of him. Thy servant will go and fight with this Philistine. And Saul said unto David, thou art not able to go against this Philistine to fight with him, for you are but a youth, and he a man of war from his youth. So we see from the scripture reading that as David was busy asking the soldiers about the reward of killing this Philistine and taking reproach from Israel, the words or the rumor came to Saul's ear, and Saul called for David. So when David came in the presence of Saul, he said, let no man fear or let no man be discouraged because of this Philistine. He said, I'll go and fight this Goliath. And Saul also tried to stop David. So here we see another level of naysayer. We see a king. The first naysayer that we saw was his brother. So it was a lower level of naysayer, of people who say it cannot be done. There are people who grew up with him. But now the naysayer comes in levels. Here is a senior naysayer, a king of Israel, who says to David, David, you are not able to fight this Philistine because this Philistine has been a soldier or a warrior from his youth, and you are just a small boy. So this is the king. I believe as David was growing up, he was looking up to Saul. He was saying to himself, one day I'm going to be like Saul. One day I'm going to be a warrior like Saul. One day I'm going to shake nations like Saul. But now the same man who used to encourage David as a youth, he is discouraging him. The same man who used to inspire David from his youth is discouraging him. He's saying it cannot be done. There are people in life that used to inspire you as a youth. They used to inspire you, maybe in spheres of business, in spheres of career. But once you begin to progress in your life and you begin to embark in those spheres and begin to embark in those businesses, those people are threatened and they want to stop you. They are naysayers in life that used to inspire you, but now that they have inspired you, now they fear that you will surpass them. Such are the likes of Saul, that is fearing that David will come and be successful and kill a Goliath that he is not able to kill. Now he's stopping him from killing Goliath. Now he is forbidding him from going and fight Goliath. But now listen to what David is saying in verse 34. And David said unto Saul, thy servant kept his father's sheep, and there came a lion and a bear, and took a lamb out of the flock. And I went out after him, and smote him, and delivered it out of his mouth. And when he arose against me, I caught him by his beard, and smote him, and slew him. Thy servant slew both the lion and the bear. And this uncircumcised Philistine shall be as one of them, seeing he has defied the armies of the living God. Now here, David is rehearsing to Saul that I have killed a bear before, and I have killed a lion that wanted to kill my father's sheep. Now David was leveraging on his testimony. It's very important, ladies and gentlemen, that we do not forget what God delivered us from. It is very important, ladies and gentlemen, that we do not forget the testimonies that God gave us. There are lions in your life that God helped you to overcome. There are bears in your life that God delivered you from. So you should not forget it. So that one day when you are facing a bigger problem, you will look back and leverage on your testimony and say, the same God who was able to help me overcome the lion and able to help me kill the bear is the same God that will be able to help me solve this problem. So that is leveraging on your testimony. You need to remember that the same God, He is still the same yesterday, today, and forever. He does not change. So a testimony, when you are rehearsing a testimony, or when you're looking back at the testimony, or saying a testimony, you are saying the same power that was released back then is the same power that will be released, or the same power that can be released today. So testimonies are portals in the realm of the spirit that are reminding us, or that we can enter through and have a similar victory.